I hate to sit here and dredge up the past, but people still, to this day, will ask me my thoughts about the Matt Kenseth-Joey Logano incident from 2015. And I figured that since the race this weekend is at Martinsville, and back in 2015 I was really not making videos like this at all, I would revisit the topic and give you guys, hopefully, the full story of the entire confrontation. Most of y'all know that I'm a big Matt Kenseth fan, so yes, I am going to be defending him a lot in this video, but I'm also going to be defending Joey Logano as well. I think both drivers became extremely polarizing after this whole ordeal, and I don't think that was ever fully justified. I just want to make sure everyone knows the full story, and I also want to vent some frustrations a little bit, so allow me that. And I also want to clarify, this isn't an out of the groove, this is kind of just a one-off style video, so I hope you enjoy it. The best place to start in this story is with the 2015 Hollywood Casino 400 at the Kansas Speedway. The fifth race of the chase that year and the second race of round number 2. That race came down to a battle between Matt Kenseth, who was kind of in a playoff hole after being involved in a wreck the week before, and Joey Logano, who had already clinched a spot in the next round. With 3 laps to go, Kenseth threw an aggressive block on Logano, who then decided to turn the 20 car into turn 1. This forced Kenseth to settle for a 14th place finish, while Logano went on to win the race. This move put Matt Kenseth on the brink of elimination in a year where he had won 5 races and had felt like a top championship contender for most of it. Obviously, the two had very different views of the incident. Kenseth was upset because he didn't like that Logano intentionally spun him out, but Logano felt like he was justified because Matt Kenseth had blocked him into the wall, as he put it. Here's where I'll argue a little bit in favor of Matt Kenseth. Joey Logano was never blocked into the wall. It was an aggressive block, don't get me wrong, but the 20 car was technically clear. If you want to see what getting blocked into the wall looks like, look no further than this clip from the 2014 playoffs.
Oh, trouble, contact there, Kenseth and Keselowski.
Oops, sorry, that was Logano's teammate flat out dooring Kenseth into the wall during a playoff race the year before. I wonder if Matt Kenseth was thinking about that after Kansas. Anyway, that all being said, I actually mostly stand with Joey Logano on this part of the incident. Did he need to wreck Matt Kenseth for the win? No, probably not. He probably shouldn't have, but hey, Kenseth did block him really aggressively a couple of times, and Logano didn't just wreck him, he just gave him a small nudge and just sent Kenseth for a spin. Not too big of a deal. I mostly side with Logano on this. Can't really be too upset with Joey for that. Unfortunately for Joey Logano, the following week didn't really sit well with Matt Kenseth. The week after that Kansas race, NASCAR CEO Brian France went on public radio and called Joey Logano's wreck of Kenseth quintessential NASCAR. He went on to say that Logano made a very smart decision in what he did because he had an opportunity to put one of the top teams on the outside looking in to the next round. France said that Logano spinning Kenseth was a smart thing to do. Direct quote from Brian France. Now, even back in 2015, most NASCAR fans did not have the highest view of Brian France, and I'm kind of speculating here, but I doubt most of the drivers did either. And I definitely doubt that an old school type racer kind of like Kenseth is like Brian France very much. And I definitely know for a fact that he did not appreciate those comments from Brian France. A few weeks later, looking back on the incident, Matt Kenseth had this quote about France. I felt like I was almost encouraged. I felt like the comments almost condoned it. The way Brian France said Joey was smart and the way he strategically eliminated a threat for the title. Now we'll jump to that point a little bit later. Let's go back to the week after Kansas. In this case, I stand with Matt Kenseth. I don't, Brian France, you can't make those comments. If you're Matt Kenseth, I mean, not only do you get dumped for the win, but now the CEO of the sport is basically applauding the guy who did it. That can't feel good. The next race was Talladega, and there nothing too big happened between the two. There was one incident on green flag pit stops when Joey Logano aggressively cut in front of Kenseth getting onto pit road, brake checked him, they made a little bit of contact.
Tell that 22 I'm going to knock his out after the race. You tell him behind the daddy.
Obviously, Matt Kenseth was not thrilled with that. He would go on to say a few weeks later that in this race, Logano was doing everything he could to aggravate him, it seemed. But now, all that said and done, let's look at the main event, the race we all remember. The following week, NASCAR rolled into Martinsville for the first race of the eliminator round of the chase. It's worth mentioning that at this point, Matt Kenseth was eliminated from the playoffs, from the chase. Meanwhile, Joey Logano, by sweeping the round before with 3 wins in a row, had risen to the top of most people's championship threats. In this race, Logano led for a large portion. Matt Kenseth ran up there around the top 5 for much of it. However, things got dicey with about 70 laps to go. Once again racing for the lead late, Matt Kenseth got taken out in a wreck by Brad Keselowski, a Team Penske teammate of Logano.
They took off slow. The 22 got at the racetrack. The 2 got in the back of the 22. They come off the corner. The 20 and the 2 make contact. It's on from there.
Kenseth and Keselowski already had kind of a rough history together, and I'm sure that crossed Matt's mind. So this sent Kenseth to the garage, but he came back out shortly thereafter, and that's what led to this.
Kenseth cleared by Logano. Maybe no. Kenseth takes him out.
This was huge, obviously. We don't see drivers, especially top drivers in the sport, go out and just intentionally take each other out like this. We don't see that very often. This was also an important incident points-wise because it sent Joey Logano from the top of the playoff grid to the bottom. Remember, back in 2015, they didn't give bonus points for wins the way they do now. They didn't have bonus points carry over from round to round. Logano was furious, and rightfully so, and Matt Kenseth was, I don't know, I guess maybe he felt like he'd avenged himself. Maybe his soul was finally at ease. I don't know. There was no fight. There was no further altercation at this race. They left it all out there on the racetrack, or on wreckers. If you want my thoughts on this incident specifically, it's really hard for me to pick either side. I love Matt Kenseth partially because he never would get himself involved in silly drama like this, but in this case, I felt like he was mostly justified. From Matt Kenseth's standpoint, you got spun out of the lead late at Kansas. But sure, you kind of deserved it because you were blocking aggressively. Okay, I'll let it slide. But then the CEO of NASCAR basically says it was smart to wreck you. Okay, fine, I guess, but then Logano brake checks you and annoys you at Talladega, and now you're probably starting to get a little angry. And then Martinsville, where Joey Logano's teammate wrecks you out of second place. At that point, I can completely understand Matt Kenseth being upset, not necessarily all with Logano, but with Team Penske in general. And here's where I'll defend Logano. Other than the incident at Kansas and Talladega, he didn't do that much wrong. I feel like it was people around him that were escalating the situation. If Brian France doesn't make those comments, or if NASCAR sits the two of you guys down like they usually do and had you guys talk, or if Brad Keselowski doesn't spin him at Martinsville, nothing would have happened. All Logano really did was spin Kenseth at Kansas, which I already said he was kind of right to do so, and then get into him at Talladega, and then I guess he just never apologized, which probably also rubbed Matt the wrong way a little bit. But if I look at those couple of things, that's not that big of a deal. Joey Logano did not deserve to be wrecked at Martinsville. But at the same time, I think Matt Kenseth was fully justified in taking out a Team Penske championship contender. It's just unfortunate for Logano that he was the one who was leading. Now, I said earlier that I was going to vent some frustration in this video. Well, we're at that part now. Because the following week after the Martinsville incident, NASCAR handed Matt Kenseth an unprecedented penalty. They suspended him for the next 2 NASCAR Cup Series races. They threw the book at him. I say unprecedented because NASCAR was faced with similar issues just a few years before. In 2011, Kyle Busch intentionally wrecked Truck Series championship contender Ron Hornaday in a race at Texas Motor Speedway.
Kyle Busch should be parked for this race and maybe the rest of the season.
Kyle Busch was suspended for the Cup race that weekend, but that was it. 1 race. Or an even better example was Phoenix in 2012 when Jeff Gordon intentionally wrecked Clint Bowyer in the second to last race of the season. Bowyer was second in points at that time, and the wreck knocked him out of title contention. Jeff Gordon was not suspended at all for that incident. Instead, he was fined $100,000. That's not even a full race's worth of earnings. But despite those recent penalty decisions, NASCAR decided that they were going to penalize Matt Kenseth 2 races, basically because they knew they could get away with it. Kenseth is no Jeff Gordon or Kyle Busch. He's not selling as many tickets to races as those guys. But this blatant misuse of power by NASCAR has forever left me salty. I will wear this shirt proudly until the day I die. In fact, someone, please bury me in this shirt when the time comes. At the start of the 2016 season, in fact, NASCAR even updated the rule book to kind of rewrite their behavioral penalties rules. Just like in 2004 when they introduced the chase the year after Matt Kenseth, wrapped up the title a week early. Or this year when NASCAR changed their too many men over the wall rule after it knocked Kenseth out of the playoffs last year. I think I know part of why Matt Kenseth doesn't want to race next year, guys. Anyway, I let my venting get me off track a little bit there. This video is mostly about the Martinsville incident, and like I said before, I don't think there's really a way you can be fully on either guy's side. Kenseth, in my opinion, had plenty of reason to wreck him. Meanwhile, Logano had plenty of reason to be upset about it. There were too many outside factors that played a part in it, and I don't think anyone should ever put all the blame on Matt or all the blame on Joey. That's just my thoughts. Anyway, you guys, thank you all so much for watching. That's the end of my video/rant. I hope you enjoy this. I'm not going to make this kind of video very often unless you guys really enjoy it. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll give me some other topics for the future. But typically, I'll be doing Out of the Groove. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I do Out of the Groove multiple times a week where I talk about all the real-world news and events, basically as they're happening around the NASCAR Cup Series world. We got a few more weeks until the Championship 4 race at Miami, so season's ramping up. Subscribe if you're new. Follow me on social media. All those links are down below. And then let me know, of course, what you guys think about this whole incident. I know it was a few years ago, but hopefully you guys enjoyed what I had to say. Maybe it reminded you of things you didn't remember. Maybe you look at the two drivers a little differently now. That's kind of my goal. I kind of just wanted to straighten the story out, make things clear for people who maybe hadn't. I've thought about this incident a lot as a big Matt Kenseth fan. I always think about this incident, especially when we go to Martinsville and NASCAR plays highlights from it, which I think is horribly hypocritical, but they do. You know, I'm always thinking about it, and it's something that I kind of wanted to set the record straight, at least from my opinion. But anyway, y'all, that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later this weekend. Have a good one, y'all.